Mika is there guiding us with the team on the other side. So Mika, thank you very much. Let's work together as we enjoy this particular session into practical and academic discussions around climate resilience, water resource management. We are going to learn from the best in the field, best practices from India and Jordan. There's a saying here in Zambia where we say, for someone to know how heavy a bag of salt is, you need to carry it. So we will learn from those who've experienced climate resilient water resource management. So we can move to the next slide. My names are John Yudis Lengwekunda. My names are not as difficult as Jehad's name. I'm a communication and media professional. I work quite diversely. I mean, I've worked here in Zambia, Botswana, UK, and the United States. But I've been based in Zambia. I've been working in the water sector for about 12 years now. But now I joined the energy sector, where we're looking at provision of electricity, generating, transmitting, and distributing electricity in the country. I am an anthropologist, as well as a philosopher and a public health specialist. So I teach for the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I teach public health and policy and health promotion. I've been working with the American government under PEPFAR, as well as under the Millennium Challenge, to provide water supply and sanitation to over 1.2 million people in the city of Lusaka. I've also been working with GIZ on a consultancy basis, where we've dealt with a number of climate-related sanitation as well as water supply issues in Lusaka. So that's briefly about me. As you can see, my handsome picture there when I was young and raw, but now I'm finished. So we can move to the next slide. I'm happy to join this particular session. Please, this session will be recorded. Be warned and be told. Your participation is automatically, once you participate, just know that you've given us permission to record. If you do not want and you do not consent, please feel free to leave the session now. We'll give you a few seconds. Okay, no one is leaving. Thank you. Please just ensure that there are certain rules. The recording will be made available after the session. As practice, as you know, there have been problems and scandals, children running in the background, pets running in the background. Please turn off your camera if possible. Yeah. And then you mute yourself while not speaking. And that's good practice so that we can manage the sound in the environment. Next slide, please. The agenda, as you can see, is welcome and setting this particular agenda, as I've said, and then we're sharing the Jordan and Indian experience. We are going to have an exciting question and answer session, to the panel on climate resilient water resources management. And then after that, we are going to have an interaction with the audience where you feel free to chip in and discuss various issues that would have come out from the Jordan experience and the Indian experience, as well as from the Q&A from experts. After that, we have closing remarks from two experts. Let's move to the next. So please, for interactions, join the app. It's an app.wisembly.com, and the password is as shown: WWater, then 4 in the letter 4. Digit 4, D. So WWater, word 4D. And then it is at www.app.wisembly.com. So just log in. You can log in from the computer or from the phone, because that will be a platform for interactive sessions there. And if you have any questions, to any speakers at any point of time, and you are itching to ask a question, please, just post it in the chat box on Microsoft Teams. There's a chat box, where you chat there. Throw in your questions there and give a thumbs up to questions of interest to you so that we can tag them and pick up all possible ones during the audience interaction sessions. We don't want to leave anyone behind. Just as much as we are counting water as precious, your questions and contributions are precious. Thanks in advance. Welcome to this session. Next slide, please. So we'll be going to Wisembly. I'm sure we're getting to Wisembly now. You can post in there. We want to know what comes to your mind. Please, climate resilient war resource management. What is the first word that comes to your mind? For me, I've already thrown in there. Please feel free to submit. If you've managed to log into Assembly, just log in and answer the question. Okay, fine. Efficiency. Others say energy. There's drought. Yeah. Efficiency. Sufficient. Yes, please go on. Let's go, please. Let's go. The vote is going. Don't be left behind. Fantastic. Adaptation. Yeah. I love this group. Hey, you're so alive. Security. Yeah. Actually, GIZ is even leading a team water security in Zambia. Wow. Let's go, team. Let's go. Resilience. I know you're there. Sufficient. Drought. Energy. GHG. Hi, what's that one? GHG. I don't know that one. Generally, energy, resilience, drought, sufficient, and there's GHG. Maybe Mika may help me. It may have to be defined.
John, that's greenhouse gases.
Thank you very much. Greenhouse gases, yes. O3 and ozone protection. Okay, fantastic. Water. Community has come up as well. We have water, equity, affordability. Yeah, others can't even afford a bit of that. Yeah, equity, high production. No. Availability. Affordability again, high production. Nice. Adaptation. Solutions, local, positive water balance, participatory. This is so rich, so real. I hope somebody can use fuzzy mapping to write a paper. Better soil quality, participatory. Again, someone has put thumbs up. These contributions. Another reaction, thumbs up, or with a heart. I can see, yeah, is that love? No, yeah, life cycle analysis. Yeah. Low vulnerability. Yeah. Okay. I have 2 minutes, please. Let's go. Shoot. This is what global space can do. Knowledge from the entire global space in a few minutes. Gender equitable. Mitigation. Gender equitable. Mitigation. Misunderstanding. Governance. Nature-based. Use. Participatory. Energy. Times. Local. Independence. Reuse. Interests. Accessibility. Water. There's use. Nature-based. Misunderstanding. Reduce and recycling. Gender. Monitoring. Women, our mothers and our sisters. Access. Yeah, women here suffer most. Health. The health benefits that accrue. Water is health. Water is life. Fear. Yeah, water security. Fear. Transformation. Energy. Keeps coming up. Gender sensitive learning. Ecosystem restoration. Food security. Reorganizing. Yeah. Wow, this is hot. People are alive there. They are contributing. Reorganizing. We are awake. And this is how important water is. Pollution, politics. Pollution, politics. Nexus. Oh, I think we can go on and go on. Working animals. Working animals. Fantastic. Wow. I promise you, someone needs to write a paper. Do a fuzzy map. Look at the reactions, adaptation, management, drought, demand and supply management. Leave no one behind. Money, man-animal conflict, pond rejuvenation. This man-animal conflict, leave no one behind. Money, gender sensitive, and we keep on going. So just a few seconds now, please shoot, and we'll be able to go back at some point and have this consume, misallocation, youth, the future, livelihood, climate resilient water resource management, CWRM, livelihood, youth, misallocation. Wow, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think now we are going to our presentation, otherwise we'll take the whole day because this audience is enthusiastic. Ooh, they are alive. Fantastic. Okay, let's now have our presentation. So what I'm going to introduce the exciting speakers that we have at the moment. So we have Dirk Winkler, who's it? You know, there is waving. So Dirk is the team leader of the GIZ project strengthening capacities for wastewater management and technical and vocational education and training for Jordanians and Syrian refugees in the water sector. With 14 years of international experience in the Middle East and Northern Africa, Dirk Winkler is a mechanical engineer, very efficient. You know, mechanical engineers, they are the efficient type. Education scientist with an MBA degree in business administration with specialization in energy efficiency. I need you to come to Zambia to deal with energy efficiency because there are too many technical and commercial losses. And then, of course, he also deals with renewable energy. The last 4 years, he has advised Ministry of Water and Irrigation, Water Authority of Jordan on issues of water, wastewater, energy efficiency, and organizational development. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Dirk Winkler. Manja. Yeah, I think you can hear me. If your mic is on mute, it's okay. Then Rajiv Ahal works in GIZ India as director. Namaste, sir. Natural resource management and bilateral projects, water security and climate adaptation in rural India, other projects on rural development, social protection, the Mahatma Gandhi, NREGA, sustainable farming systems, soil health management, market-led development approaches, including public-private. Oh, this man does everything. He's so gifted. Wow. Value chain development, access to green finance, etc. Rajiv has over 33 years of experience in working with international agencies. What more can you ask for? He's worked with governments and private sector in India and African countries on these issues. He has majored in electrical engineering, another engineer, men and women of precision and focus. For his graduation and holds a diploma in international program for organization and systems development. He's an author of technical and fiction publications and is based in Delhi, India. Rajiv, welcome. And we are waiting to that presentation. Let's go now. We're starting with Dirk. Here is a presentation that comes through from the Jordan experience.
Yeah, hello everyone, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. I'd like to welcome you to the presentation on technical sustainable management in the context of climate resilient water resource management. This presentation is divided into two parts. In the first part, I will inform you briefly about Jordan, the GIZ module, and the framework of TSM before my colleague Leon will explain impact, current status of implementation, and outlook. The project Strengthening Capacities for Wastewater Management, implemented by GIZ on behalf of the German government, is supporting the Ministry of Water and Irrigation and the Water Authority of Jordan in improving operational performance of wastewater treatment plants in the north of Jordan. Jordan is a country in the MENA region with challenges in satisfying its energy demand. At the same time, the kingdom is one of the most water-scarce countries in the world with 33 municipal wastewater treatment plants. The water and wastewater sector are huge energy consumers. Therefore, energy-efficient wastewater treatment plants contribute to minimize those challenges and contributing to less carbon emission. Technical sustainable management as a quality management system is aiming at operational optimization of wastewater treatment plants. Wastewater treatment is a complex process that is quite different from plant to plant. However, 4 main steps are always inherent in the process, including preliminary, primary, secondary, and tertiary treatment. Depending on, for example, treatment technology, plant size, legislation, reuse of treated wastewater, the process step differs. Even in Jordan's wastewater treatment plants, technology and therefore processes in each step are different. However, aeration of the mixed liquor is by far the most energy intensive sub-process, although the share differs depending on the technology applied in the range of 55 to 70% of the total energy consumption of the plant. Optimization of those processes to reduce the energy consumption. So please change the slide. Technical safety management system was developed by DWA, the German Association of Water, Wastewater and Waste, as a quality management system for the German gas, water and wastewater sector before GSZ introduced an adapted technical sustainable management system into Egypt. In 2017, it was agreed to apply TSM as a vehicle to improve operational performance of wastewater treatment plants in Jordan. The system is comparable to ISO, but focuses more on technical requirements and is more cost efficient. Next slide, please. In a TSM inspection, the performance of wastewater treatment plants is evaluated based on a TSM requirement catalog. The requirements are divided into 6 pillars, which are human resources, occupational health and safety, operation, maintenance, quality control, and energy efficiency. The unique feature of TSM Jordan is that the system consists of a pillar energy efficiency to address specifically this challenge. Each of the 6 pillars contains up to 13 questions with reference to the Jordanian law, rules, and regulations. A team of 3 inspectors are evaluating the fulfillment of requirements based on evidence provided and based on a site inspection. If requirements are met, a certificate with a 1-year or 2-year validity is issued. The length of validity depends on the level of fulfillment. With this, I'd like to hand over to Leon, who will elaborate more on details on impact, current status, and outlook.
Yes, thank you very much, Dirk. Hello and welcome also from my side. We will be looking at the expected and so far experienced impacts of TSM. Therefore, we need to go to the next slide. The project has identified 3 main impact areas for TSM: the economical, environmental, and legislative. Even the possibility of a social impact was discussed, but it is not listed here. As mentioned before, TSM is used as a quality management tool, supporting the Water Authority of Jordan in its supply function. One of the main outcomes. On a wastewater treatment plant level, it supports the manager and staff to comply with all legislative requirements. This is especially challenging because there are so many laws and regulations that are updated regularly. Furthermore, March is able to monitor, evaluate, and benchmark all of the wastewater plants involved. A major environmental aspect is that TSM aims at the reduction of greenhouse gases through reduced energy consumptions. We will go into the so far experienced impact on this later in the presentation. And TSM focuses very much on the processes in wastewater treatment plants. The overall operational performance is improved through increased efficiency and effectiveness. Then we go to the next slide, please. Another major impact of TSM is the higher safety measures. Our GIZ colleagues in Egypt have proven that with TSM in place, the number of work-related accidents reduced drastically. Furthermore, different pillars of TSM tackle the daily job routines of staff, leading to a higher job satisfaction, retaining qualified staff, and maximizing the employees' productivity. Last but not least, especially the operation and maintenance pillar of TSM ensures systematic preventive and corrective job orders, eliminating issues before they emerge and decreasing expensive downtimes. Going to the next slide then. So far we talked about the theory behind TSM. Now we would like to share some of our experiences from the wastewater treatment plants and from the first inspections. In the photograph on the right, you can see a typical setup for TSM inspection, with 3 certified and nominated inspectors on the one side and key staff of the wastewater treatment plant on the other. They are going through all relevant documents, checking if they fulfill the requirements on paper before they check if they're actually applied on site. The first inspection took place in November 2019 in Wadi Hassan. Since they fulfilled the requirements set by the implementation guide, they received the first certificate for TSM Jordan. After Wadi Hassan, inspections were conducted in 5 more wastewater treatment plants. All of them were successful, leading to a certificate in the end. For some wastewater treatment plants, it was a closer call. Others already had their processes aligned with most regulations. But for all, it involved a bit of a challenge, and you could feel the relief and a sense of pride and confidence after receiving an official certificate. Depending on the developments of the pandemic now, it is planned to conduct 3 more inspections this year. After that, the first wastewater treatment plants will go through their first re-inspections, where it will be checked if the TSM processes are still maintained. Going to the next slide, please. Now we would like to share with you the impact on the electricity consumption from 2 selected wastewater treatment plants that have received the TSM certificate. It is important to mention here that these results are a short-term result since TSM was just implemented recently. A clearer tendency of reduced energy consumption is especially expected in the long run. The current trend of reduced energy consumption after TSM implementation is a result of optimized operation procedures and consistent documentation. However, the implemented TSM processes on site seem to already reduce the amount of peaks within the consumption, leading to a more consistent operation. The water sector in Jordan has a significant share of the overall electricity consumption. Since Jordan generates the electricity from fossil fuels with over 90%, the reduced energy consumption from wastewater treatment plants contributes to the reduced emissions of greenhouse gases. Going over to the next slide, please. As a brief outlook, we will now present 2 more slides with the most recent developments. First, it is planned to digitalize the preparation and inspection process of TSM by including our 150-page requirement catalog and other documents into a digital format accessible for both inspectors and wastewater treatment plant staff. It is foreseen to include different features to such app to help organizing and maintaining TSM, and to update all the actors with the most recent developments. The main goal at the end is to conduct the inspection process completely paperless. Then over to the next slide. Finally, since the wastewater treatment is systematically relevant, the project team has supported the Water Authority of Jordan in developing an emergency response plan to COVID-19, building upon the existing structures of TSM. The framework of TSM allows even to include risk management procedures, supporting the wastewater treatment plants for emergency preparedness, such as in a pandemic. This will be reviewed and most likely integrated more within the next update of the annual requirement catalog. With this, I would hand back over to John, our moderator. John, are you there?
Hello. Okay, fantastic. Okay, we are now, please post questions. If you have any questions before we let the team off, can we post any questions in the chat? So you have your chat there. If there are questions or clarifications or contributions that you'd like to make, please, this is an opportunity for you to place or post your questions in the chat. Arabi is trying to say something. What were the challenges in implementing wastewater interventions? Any scientific study carried out for technology assessment? There's a question there. What were the challenges in implementing wastewater interventions? Any scientific study carried out for technology assessment? Maybe we can note that question. Any other questions before we respond? Maybe we can take 2 or 3. Or as people are thinking, the panelist, Dirk, would you want to take that particular question?
Hello. What were the challenges? I mean, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So for supporting wastewater treatment plants, we contracted a consultancy, and they did a comprehensive study of all wastewater treatment plants before implementing TSM. And after TSM was implemented, there was on-site support provided by this consultancy to support treatment plants to fulfill requirements. And the biggest challenges was lack of spare parts and lack of competence, I would say.
Also financial support.
Yeah, financial support
Yes.
was the biggest challenge.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. When you refer to lack of competence, is it the human resource competence? Was there an institutional strengthening component to this particular project? What would you say?
Yeah, there's one component. There's one component only focusing on training. At the beginning, a comprehensive training needs analysis was implemented. So assessing really the training needs of all staff working in the wastewater sector on wastewater treatment plants. And based on that, a training plan on individual level was developed. And based on this training plan, training was implemented. Not only technical training, but training in all kinds. Social skills training, language training, soft skill training, any training which was identified in the training needs analysis.
Also, if you allow me to add something, also staff acceptance, it's not easy also to let the people, or the staff working with the treatment plants accept the changes. Sometimes the people, they don't like actually to change, because this actually methodology has a catalog which was prepared by a special committee and taking experience from Egypt, TSM. Actually, with time and with the workshops and with, as Mr. Dirk said, with the training and with the workshops with the staff working with the treatment plants, and finally we reached the people they like actually to implement TSM.
Maybe just to introduce him, this was our focal point, engineer Ahmed Ulaimat. He is one of the panelists later on. So we are sitting in one room together. That's why you don't see him as a speaker.
Okay, great. No, that contribution is very good. Organizational change sometimes is difficult. So just behavior change, apart from community level, but organizational change can be a challenge. It's interesting. Thank you. Any other questions, please? Feel free to post the questions. Yeah, someone says, thanks. Can I ask a few more? Please, you are allowed. Yeah. What has been the experience of livelihood generation? And was the treated water used by community or discharged to river bodies? Please take that question again, Tim.
Yeah, the water is used if needed to 100%. In winter times, the water is discharged to the rivers, but in summer times, when irrigation is needed, the treated wastewater is reused to almost 100%.
Oh, fantastic. So the response is that there is reuse of that particular water. Is it also being used for drinking?
No. No, it's if you allow me just to clarify something, treated wastewater is not allowed at all to be used for drinking purposes or to this stage to be treated and used for drinking purposes. It's only allowed to be used for only restricted irrigation, like irrigation fodders and trees. This is our, as Mr. Dirk said, it's almost 100% during summertime using this reclaimed water with signing agreements with the farmers and the end users.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Pinaki Dasgupta, is that help? Does that help? Or do you have another question, Pinaki? Because that's the one who had asked, does that help? Because that's clarify for me. Here we have natural, anaerobic and aerobic ponds that we use, but we are trying to have a mechanical treatment plant. People tend to puncture these treatment plants and they use them for watering vegetables. Okay. Are there any other questions? Any questions? Going one, going, okay. What percentage of the water in Jordan is treated? That is Savadra, Carlos Pedro. He's asking what percentage of the water in Jordan is treated?
Okay, actually, the total quantity of reclaimed water in the year 2009, it was 168 MCM, million cubic meter per year. This is the treated wastewater coming from, as Mr. Dirk said, from 33 treatment plants all over the country. So the reuse, it's all in all parts of the country. The plan is to reuse every drop of water in Jordan. As you know, Jordan is suffering a lot from available water resources.
Okay. Fantastic. And then there is another one, Pinaki says that's very helpful because it's interesting to see many overlaps in India. But how important is your experience, in the project for social value? And you can also combine that one with who is doing the quality control of wastewater before using it in order to avoid heavy metal use, PE in irrigation. So those two questions can be combined, please.
Yeah, that's okay.
Number one.
Yes, Water Authority of Jordan, we have, labs and quality control affairs. This is the sector that I am supervised. We are responsible for implementing the monitoring programs for the reclaimed water and to ensure that it's complying with the Jordanian standard as well as WHO guidelines. Did this answer your question, or you want me to add more? Mute, maybe you went to mute. Mute.
Social, would you like to elaborate on social values?
Yeah.
There is a question on social value that has not been answered.
Social.
Yeah. What is your experience? How important is your experience in the project for social value? Hello, Dirk?
Yeah, just thinking how to answer. Yeah.
The social value.
Okay, as you are thinking about that one, there is another one. Is there any independent control by labs? Is there independent control for the wastewater quality?
Yeah, there's a central lab, and our panelist here, Engineer Ahmed Ulaimat, he is Assistant Secretary General for Labs and Quality Control. So he can elaborate more in detail.
Yeah. We implement a comprehensive monitoring programs according to the standards, and this is a comprehensive standard based on WHO guidelines and EPA, and based on that we have a frequency of sampling for each water quality parameter. And we also have independent regulatory body, which is the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Environment. They are monitoring and they are implementing their own monitoring programs and check the water quality if it is complying with the standard or not. So we have two independent regulatory body in addition to Water Authority of Jordan.
Okay. Fantastic. Then there is another one. I'm also interested in this one because initially our treatment effluent was about 10 almost to the power 9 or something like that, until we brought it down to 10 to the power 0. So there's this question here which says, I'm interested to hear whether water quality improved at the exit to the wastewater treatment, and if so, by how much improvement? Because it says improvement of water quality is often key to other water uses and risks downstream. So if the effluent isn't good enough, so how would you respond to that? And then there's another, let's answer that one and then we'll come back to this one.
Actually, by the standard, the minimum treatment level is secondary level. So we have to treat the water to the minimum, to the secondary level, and some of the treatment plants actually it reaches tertiary treatment. So there's, the treatment plants is working with a very efficient way. And for example, comparing the BOD, we have a BOD concentration in the inlet on average 600 milligram per liter, and we have the effluent with a BOD concentration less than 30 milligram per liter. So the efficiency of the treatment plants working on the mechanical type, which is most of it working under the activated sludge system, the efficiency in improving the water quality, it's more than 97%.
Okay. And maybe I can add on this. Our aim is not only to improve the quality of treated wastewater, but to sustain it.
Yes.
To have always be always below the limits.
Yes, city state.
So this is more important for us, more than having the best quality achievable.
Okay, Tim. I'm now going to dictate that we move to the next session. I know there are a number of questions that are still standing. We'll take these questions up to the interaction section. For now, let's go to the Indian experience, and I'll be inviting Rajiv, I think, to take us there. Thank you very much for this great participation on this first case study. So let's move now to the next experience. Again, climate resilient water resource management, evolving approaches and experiences from Indo-German cooperation. So the Indian experience is coming through. Hold on to your questions. We'll discuss them. Please, Rajiv, shoot.
Thank you, John, and greetings to all in different parts of the world. As John mentioned, this is a project on water security and climate adaptation in rural parts of India. And it started last year, and therefore the experiences are rolling in, and it's a good point of time to see what we have done and where we are headed. Now, in a true bilateral project sense, this project, which is supported by Government of Germany, brings together and works closely with two very key ministries at a national level, the Ministry of Rural Development and the Ministry of Water Resources, called the Jal Shakti. And we are very happy that the Joint Secretary of the Ministry of Rural Development Department, responsible for this program countrywide, is also one of the panelists today, and you could speak to him and also ask questions to him later on after his panel discussion. The next slide, please. So just giving a context to water in India. Now, while the numbers can be debated, the fact is that the situation is quite dire. Almost 45% of India's population, about 600 million people, are already facing the water stress situation. And the climate change factors have actually made the cycle of droughts and floods even more severe and more unpredictable. If you just look at the 10 years between 2007 and 2017, the groundwater in India, the level has dropped by 61% in many areas. And so this is a huge amount of water use because the other sources of water are not dependable. And the studies show, the projections are that by 2050, if we continue like this, almost 6% fall in our GDP may happen
if we don't go back to or go towards efficient water use. And of course, we see when John, in the beginning, you were looking at this nexus between water, energy and all, and climate. It is a known fact now that, in a sense, what we can do through adaptation in the water field is what energy does in a mitigation sense, in terms of really helping reduce the impacts on human beings. Now, most of the climate change impacts that happen to people who are living their daily lives are happening through the use and availability of water and the water cycle on the whole. So what is it that we are trying to do? The understanding of a climate resilient water resource management is to reduce the vulnerability of populations which are at risk, especially because of the adverse climate change. It includes the ability to maintain the services and also support the livelihoods in the face of short-term shocks that are happening all the time, but also getting the system geared and in place for the long-term adaptation and really settle the water balance back in the long term. Next slide, please. Now, the WASCA project is basically, the objective is that the water resource management is enhanced in an integrated approach at a national level, at a state level, and also at a local level. And the perspectives of water security and climate adaptation is layered on top of it. Now, what are we doing in this project with the government? So in 4 of the biggest states of India, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu, and with some small support to the government in Karnataka, the project is working very actively on a bottom-up planning process. And this process is actually looking at water as a composite management issue. It's looking at the demand side, it's looking at the supply side. It works at a sub-basin level so that the hydrology is not just looking at a watershed or a micro watershed, but overall needs of the people and the use of water. And a lot of the aspects about water and how to solve problems are known. But what is important is that how do different practitioners, departments come together? How do we converge in the one picture of what the water problem is and how to solve it, and put in the finances as well for an integrated implementation? And then this must be demonstrated with evidence and evidence created, which then would be useful and is already feeding into a larger scale mainstreaming of these techniques, approaches, and also its mainstreaming. So basically, at this point of time, we're working with about 1,600 planning specialists in the government departments and training, helping build their capacities. The private sector has been roped in, because if we don't work with the private sector and their water footprint, then they remain a part of the problem and not of the solution. And to drive this entire planning process, we're also getting into very digital ways of doing it. We are looking at GIS, we are using remote sensing, and we are now even developing a tool called EJAL, which is an algorithm-based planning scenario tool as well. Next slide, please. Now, I'll focus a bit today on two specific aspects of this project. And this is something that will also be launched later on by my cluster coordinator, Mohammed El Fawad, as well, towards the end. Now, one is, of course, the composite. So we're calling this Composite Water Resource Management Planning Framework. So it brings together the various supply and demand aspects, looks at the different types of waters. And so this book that we are launching today is actually a handbook for practitioners. So based on the pilots and trials done over the last year and a half, this is a methodology which is now being accepted and is now available in India for other states and departments to use, as well as can be used globally in other places as well. But the key thing beyond planning is that we can have wonderful plans, and very often they mean a new set, a new amount, a new type of resources, especially financial resources. So where do we dip with meager resources? Where do we find them? So the other work that we've done, which is we've done with also IFMI, the International Water Management Institute, who's director for India. Dr. Alok Sikka is also part of the panel discussion later on. We've looked at the various financing opportunities that are available, and I'll share a bit more about this. Next slide, please. Now, this what we are calling composite water resource management is basically an integrated water resource management with a plus. So it's basically the climate angle is put in, the water quality aspects come in, it does water budgeting, but that drives the scenario and the thrust areas. Should we focus on drinking water? Is it water quantity? Is it water quality? Is it water conservation? Is it water management? What to focus on? And it also basically looks at 4 water principles. So it looks at surface water, it looks at soil moisture, it looks at confined aquifers, it looks at unconfined aquifers. So the understanding of water is horizontal, vertical, but also going into the atmosphere in terms of climate and long-term projections and perspectives as well. The socioeconomic role of water as a driver, how to improve the livelihoods, that's part of the planning process as well. But most importantly as well, it brings together the various department and actors. In some states, we find up to anything between 17 to 20 departments, which somehow directly or indirectly work on issues related to water. And unless all of them work together, solutions cannot be found. And in the end, this whole planning process, which uses the amazing support from the social protection program called Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Generation Act and Program, which the Joint Secretary represents, the use of the climate modeling, the use of the GIS and remote sensing, all this contributes to a very cohesive and comprehensive planning process. And as we speak, in about 13,000 villages in last 1 year, already the planning process has gone forward. Next slide, please. So what does it look like? Here's one plan from a district called Barwani in Madhya Pradesh, central India. And if you look at on the input side, what has happened is that the area for which the planning has to be done, an interpretation is done. And the interpretation involves secondary data and very little primary data collection, but also ground truthing, where we look at surface water quantity, quality, level of availability of groundwater, soil moisture, like I mentioned, water quality, agriculture, land degradation. What are the climate scenarios? So climate scenarios, for example, for this area says that over last 30 years, the average rainfall has been about 770 millimeters, and the deviation has been only 4%. But the number of rainy days has been actually going down. And if you look at in last 30 years, there have been 12 major droughts in this area. So how do you put a pattern to it? Will it get worse? So we look at all this data. But side by side, who does the planning? So this planning is done by the department technical staff themselves, where we take this methodology, the capacity building is done, and then the GIS tools are trained and they are used. And that leads to preparation of the CWRM plan. And after that, the departments and the various actors sit down at various levels, at the local village level, at a development block level, at a district level, where they start getting aggregated on how to really implement it together. So the financing and the implementation capacities are also important. So for example, in this area, the 3 important trust areas that are coming up, that the traditional bodies are there, but they need to be rejuvenated because the water demand for agriculture is growing. The soil moisture conservation is required because the temperatures are very high and rainfall is low. And the sustainable land use has to happen for ecosystem restoration as well. That's the long-term priority. Next slide, please. Now, this is what a plan from another area looks like. So if you see, this is the village boundaries, the different colors show the interpretation, and then already through geotagging, where groundwater recharge structures have to be made, where roadside plantations have to be put on about 20,000 hectares for improving soil moisture, enabling percolation and providing shade, where the roof water harvesting has to be done with almost a storage capacity of something like 25 kiloliters in the 12 schools that are there in the panchayat, how to do the drain. So the overall planning for water comes out as an output. And so if you saw, it looked at water conservation, it looked at water use, it looked at afforestation, groundwater. So different aspects have been picked up, including revival of the existing water ponds as well. Each one is geotagged, and then that will become an implementation activity. Next slide, please. Now, I will now talk about, so that was the planning part. Now, how do we look for the financing part? Where is the money? So in this work, the second book that you will be seeing today, we created a mapping methodology where we defined what are the different aspects of a composite water resource management, water conservation, water management, groundwater, and then we started identifying which are the government programs and schemes which are covering some elements of it. And then categories were created, ratings was done, examples were taken to see how they work on the ground, and a three-dimensional approach was created of looking at which aspect of a climate resilient water management component does it connect to, how adequate is the budget, is it even sizable, and then can it really work in the location of implementation we are looking for. And by doing this, a huge amount of government programs and schemes got mapped. So this is an exercise any country can do, where different programs from different government donors could all be mapped. And then you know at a district level that if we really want to implement this plan, where can we get some money from? So some examples on the right-hand side are some of the government programs and schemes. I'll not go through the detail. You can go through the book. Next slide, please. Now, some examples of how India has already done this, and one can build on this. So, for example, for the Convergence model for effective water conservation and water harvesting, there's a very unique program called Chief Minister's Water Self-Reliance Program in the state called Rajasthan, where it looked at the water harvesting and conservation. So if you look at this blue dot to the left-hand side, the big one, different programs, what percentage of money could they contribute was mapped and used. In terms of solar irrigation, the energy nexus, how do you reduce the energy required and make it more efficient for irrigation? What are the various programs that were there and who can finance it? So including National Agricultural Bank like NABARD. So all of these were used and mapped. And when you look at agriculture improvement per se, then there are Ministry of Agriculture's own programs which come in from the demand side as well. So when we start looking at this connect, then the financing, the implementation, energies and interests of the various departments also converge. Another example is the climate smart agriculture approach, where we are looking at various forms of where the knowledge smart aspects are there. In that, there are 2 or 3 government schemes which already provide this money. Energy smart, again, there are some schemes that you saw on the other box, but also can be linked here. Where can be the weather smart aspect? So you have the Indian Meteorological Institute, we have the Central Water Commission. So various institutions, their programs, how do they connect to this aspect of an overall water smart approach? Then the water smart perspective itself. So there is money for micro irrigation and different aspects, nutrition, nutrient management. So once we map this, we find that there's a fairly robust amount of money available in the system. It's just that it needs to connect holistically together. Next slide, please. Which is actually my last slide to say thank you very much. And I look forward to the questions. And later on, we'll also share these booklets and you could always come back to us. So John, back to you. Thank you very much.
Rajiv, thank you. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you. I know the others are also clapping. It's just that you can't hear them. They are clapping. I can hear them in the spirit. They are clapping. Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free again to post your questions. I'll give only a few minutes to this session because we have an exciting session that is coming up as well. So please post your question in the chat, in the meeting chat. In the meantime, as we are typing, I would advise the team that maybe we respond to the other questions. What role did digital tools, e.g. for analysis, decision-making, play in implementing TSM beyond doing paperless audits? So the question is, what role did digital tools play in implementing the TSM beyond just doing paperless audits? That's a question that was outstanding. Can someone answer that, please?
Yeah, hi, John. This is Leon again. I think this was still regarding the presentation from Jordan. Just
yes,
maybe
Jordan.
Very quickly. Currently, it was not a digital approach at all in that sense. We are, of course, aiming to do it paperless, but also we are aiming to make it some sort of communication tool. It should be somehow an app platform where the plant staff and managers can communicate with each other, support with each other. The inspectors should be able to take photos, to take evidence of the status of the plants. It's easier to monitor. It's a bit more interactive, let's say. That's the general idea, but we're still at the very beginning.
Oh, great.
Let me just add on that. At the same time, with this technical sustainable management, we're introducing a CMMS, which is computerized monitoring management system. So we kind of computerizing or digitizing a maintenance, which is even in fact with this requirement catalog.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much. There was Akum who also asked, how do you take into account climate change projections? Do you just assume that water will get scarcer, or do you take a closer look at what might happen in the future? How do you take into account climate change projections? There was a question, I think also it was in relation to the presentation of Jordan. So please, you can add, even from the Indian side, experience.
Yep, this is from Jordan Gill. Hi. Regarding the climate change, the projection is, of course, that water will get more scarce. However, within our project area, or our intervention area, where we focus on wastewater, we then just have to focus on really reusing the highest percentage as possible for irrigation.
Okay.
If there are limited water sources available, we should make use of the treated wastewater in the end. This is the main goal that we focus on in this area.
Okay, thank you. There is another question from a guest, FM. Do you see WASCA as a means to accomplish Sustainable Development Goal number 6? Is the SDG framework of targets and indicators somehow used to track, to keep track of WRM progress? I'm sure this is after the Indian experience. Would you want to respond to that one, please?
Yeah, John. In fact, what we find, and it's very natural, that water as a driver of development connects to most of the SDGs directly or indirectly. And when you go down at an indicator level under the SDGs, there are very direct relationships. So it definitely, and so what we are doing is we are looking at it from an SDG perspective as well. We're looking at specific targets. But of course, the idea here is that this is evidence creation for large scale mainstream policy level impact, and that will also take some time for it to happen. So in our design, we have put it, but only once the government has scaled it up and mainstreamed it and scaled it up to a certain level, will the evidence of impact to that scale would be available. But already we are getting very good short-term reactions of results that are beginning to happen, especially short-term water use and dependence.
Fantastic. Okay, well done. And now you see you've provoked so many questions, you people. You're putting me in trouble. CWRM sounds good. Is there any way how the water allocation for poor or vulnerable people are strengthened, particularly related to drinking water? Mm-hmm. That's one. And can you, okay, we'll share the link, I'm sure, to the report. Can we take that one?
Yes, sure, John. So, John, in this one, the interesting part is that the actual planning for the water happens at a village level, where in India there is a structure called the Gram Sabha, where all the voters of the village come together and they approve the plan and its allocation. So, one, there is a democratic and very participatory system at a local level, which is driving this process. But also there is a government program, which I'm sure the Joint Secretary would also mention, called the Jal Jeevan Mission, which is about actually getting 100% drinking water through taps to 100% of the household in India in a few years' time. So I think so there's a design part, and then there's a support part from the government as well. So this builds on that.
Fantastic. Just as you're on that thought, how does this model bring out positives in terms of social, economic, and environmental indicators? Are there any preliminary findings? That's another question from Pinaki.
Yeah, sure. So it's definitely it's early time, but definitely what's happening is with the water efficiency around irrigation and agriculture, the impact on almost 50% of India, which is rural and doing agriculture and allied activities. The impacts are immediate. The use of the revival of traditional water structures, the revival of groundwater in the long run is taking care of the resilience in on non-rainy days and the time. So, and also with the industry, we are working very closely to see if in terms of their own water footprint, how that can be reduced and how the sustainability of the industry can also drive the sustainability of the local populations. So in an economic sense, there is a correlation, but that is not our focus. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but then maybe quickly, as an engineer with precision, Tim, I'd like you to speak to this one. Actually, how do you link the comprehensive and very structured methodical approach? And it says congratulations by way to that presentation with the national budgeting process, and at which government tier do you align that to? So how do you compromise? How do you align this very methodical, systematic approach to the government national budgeting process? And then I'll close the questions. We'll move some of these questions to the further interactions. Please, sure. Can you respond to that one?
Sure. So the congratulations I'll pass on to my entire team, which is so it's a team of people from GIZ, from the ministries, from the government departments at state level, at a district and local level. As we speak, districts are doing review of the various projects through digital means today. How far has this project gone? And the ministry is also monitoring. So I think it's a very intensive, cohesive process. In terms of the budgeting, I should say that at this point of time, there are, so this is the next level, that after the work on the ground, the collation at a district level, and the allocation of existing budgets at a state level, because a lot of the agriculture budgets and water budgets are directly held at a state level. So this reallocation reuse is what is the current stage where we are reaching. But the objective in a 3-year project is that if there are now some guidelines, some emerging trends about different agroclimatic zones of how the water needs to be budgeted for in this area, in a financial sense as well, then those would be the experiences that the two ministries that are involved with us would take into policy and guidelines. So right now it is about tweaking and using what is available and also advocating a better structuring of it. But also some work has started. For example, the government of India is redoing the water policy, and then we were able to all put our inputs into the water policy design as well. And there are chapters that are now specifically also talking about these elements. So, yeah, John, that's from my side. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. We've got a number of questions that have come up already. What I'll do is we'll proceed first with a panel conversation, and then afterwards we have a bit of time, then we can pick up some of the other questions. Is that okay? Is that okay, Tim? I'm sure it's okay. I can see you, all of you are agreeing with me and are happy with what I'm doing. So let's move on now to a panel conversation. Mika, are we together there?
Yes, John, can you see my slide?
Yes, I can see your slide.
Okay.
So I'm going to introduce, as you can see, great, happy, and well-resourced individuals there. Rohit Kumar, I'm told he's a great mathematician in the history of people like Pythagoras and everyone else, but is an Indian Administrative Service officer from Rajasthan, Kada, 1997 batch. He's currently the Joint Secretary of Mahatma Gandhi and Rega program at the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. He has previously held positions in the Government of India, including in the Ministry of Rural Development and Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. He was the Home Secretary to the State Government of Rajasthan and has worked with many departments in the state, including rural development, land revenue management, district administration, Jaipur Development Authority, among others. So meaning there is a litany of other things he's done. He was collector and district magistrate. What? I need to be careful, he may arrest me. Yeah, I don't think you need to talk about magistrates like that. And he holds a Master of Arts degree in mathematics from St. Stephen's College, Delhi, University in India, and is the recipient of national awards, including Best Collector Award at the national level for Mahatma Gandhi and Rega implementation in 2009. Put our hands together there. And on the other side, we have Mr. Engineer Ahmed Al-Elmat. He's the Assistant Secretary General for Labs and Quality Affairs at the Ministry of Water and Irrigation or Water Authority of Jordan. He has several publications and studies to the following subjects: water pollution, water monitoring programs, quality of water supply, sample collection, preservation and storage, water and wastewater quality, environmental monitoring and assessment, irrigation, water quality in Jordan Valley, industrial pollution. You know, I can even start singing that CV. You know, nitrate in drinking water quality in Jordan, quality aspects of domestic wastewater in Jordan, quality aspects of grey water in Jordan, how to set, you know, drinking water and wastewater standards, Jordan experience in wastewater reuse, Jordan experience in public awareness in the water sector, watershed management in Jordan, Jordan strategy in wastewater reuse. Engineer Ahmed, I think I need to bring you to Zambia. You can do great work here. I welcome you. Let's talk after the coronavirus. Dr. Alok Kumar Sika is with International Water Management Institute, Delhi offices, as IWMI representative India since 2016. Previously, he served as Deputy Director General, Natural Resource Management, India Council of Agricultural Research, and Technical Expert, Watershed Development, in the rank of Additional Secretary to Government of India, National Rain-Fed Area Authority, Planning Commission, Government of India. He was Director of ICA Research Complex for Eastern Region, Partner and Basin Coordinator for Indo-Gangetic Basin under the CGIAR Challenge Program on Water and Food from 2002 to 2007. He has a PhD in civil and environmental engineering. Well, another engineer, another man of precision from Utah State University. He was earlier with National Institute of Hydrology, visiting professor at University of Arizona, and faculty at the Oregon State University. I hope you'll be allowed to vote in November. He has more than 251 publications. What? And is recipient of national awards, including Fellow of National Academy of Agricultural Science. We put our hands together. Dr. Alok there, please. Dr. Gerhard Lichtela, I got it now, is the integrated expert within the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, Water Authority of Jordan. He holds a PhD in geography. I thought it was philosophy, no, geography. Master of Arts there in Middle Eastern Area Studies and Bachelor of Arts in Arabic. Arabic? Okay, salam. Thank you. And then he has authored several publications and studies to the topic customary conflict resolution in times of extreme water stress, Yemen's water and the Arab Spring, water conflict and cooperation in Yemen, political ecology and the role of water, environment, society and economy, adjusting to the extreme shortage of a common resource, runoff, resource capture, and social adaptive capacity. Gentlemen, welcome to this conference, and we are now going to ask a few questions that you are going to respond to. I have 23 minutes within which to cover some of these questions, and I know as engineers, philosophers, mathematicians, you are up to the task and you can manage it very well. So I'll start with Mr. Rohit Kumar. What are the major initiatives of the Indian government focused on water security? And how has a public employment program like Mahatma Gandhi, NREGA, evolved over the years to contribute more towards water security and climate resilience? And secondly, I'm sure you'll go to that next question, which will be, what are the additional steps taken to enhance and ensure continued water conservation and management during the COVID-19 pandemic? Please, I know you will be brief as a mathematician, but to the point. Please go ahead. Hello?
So your microphone is muted.
It's all right. Welcome. Please go ahead.
Thank you, John, and all the esteemed participants. How much time do I have to answer these three questions? John, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I said, how much time do I have?
You have about 6 minutes, eh?
Okay, thank you. So,
yes,
ladies and gentlemen, the government of India has been taking a lot of effective measures to address the water security in India. The Ministry of Jal Shakti, that is the water resources, is directly dealing with all the matters. In the year 2012, we already have formulated the National Water Policy, which advocates on rainwater harvesting and conservation of water. Then we launched Jal Shakti Abhiyan, that was launched basically to spread awareness, and it brought all the stakeholders, the central government, the state government, the civil societies, the Panchayati Raj institution, and community at large, which is very, very important. And we made it a mass movement to conserve water. And Mahatma Gandhi NREGA, the scheme which I am heading at national level, it contributed a major role in this. And as many as 300,000 structures were constructed in a period of say 4 to 5 months, and around $440 million was spent under Mahatma Gandhi NREGA under this program. Then we have Central Groundwater Board and Aquifer Mapping and Management Program, which was also launched. In addition to it, we already have Ministry of Rural Development in consultation with the Department of Water Resources and Agriculture Ministry. We have developed an actionable framework for the natural resource management, and we launched Mission Water Conservation to ensure the gainful utilization of these funds. And in addition to it, there was another program launched, Atal Bhujal Yojana, facilitating the sustainable groundwater management, and the outlay was around $850 million. Then we had National Water Mission, and the theme was, the tagline was, catch the rain when it falls, where it falls. So this was basically to nudge the states and the stakeholders to create appropriate rainwater harvesting structure. And in addition to it, recently, Government of India has launched Jal Jeevan Mission, which Rajiv already talked about it. It is to ensure every rural household, every household to have a tap water in the next 4 to 5 years. And the water source sustainability part, the majority of the funds is coming from Mahatma Gandhi NREGA. And in addition to it, we also have state initiative like Jal Yukta Shivar Abhiyan in Maharashtra, and the CM Water Reliance program, what Rajiv talked about in Rajasthan. And fortunately, I was one of the officers who started this program. So I was fortunate to start this program in Rajasthan in the capacity of Secretary Rural Development. Now I'll take up the second question, John. How has this public employment program, that is Mahatma Gandhi NREGA, is helping and contributing towards the water security and climate resilience? Now let me tell you, this is one program which is an act. This is an act, and a legal sanctity has been given to every rural household to have at least 100 days of employment, unskilled employment in the rural areas, whosoever volunteers for it. And thereby, we also aim at creation of durable assets. Now, last year, my annual budget was, the releases from the central government alone was to the tune of $10 billion. And this year, my allocation and availability of funds for this year, 2020 and 21, this has been made around $14 billion. Now, you can think of the volume of the program. It is the largest public funded rural employment program in the world. And out of this, I'm very happy to say, out of this, $14 billion, we are intending to spend around $8.4 billion only on NRM, Natural Resource Management, what you say. And out of this $14 billion, we are almost planning around $5 billion only on water, conservation and harvesting structures. So this is the volume of work we are dealing in our country under the program of Mahatma Gandhi NREGA. And I'm very happy to say there are 262 permissible works. And out of these, 182 works are related to natural resource management, and 85 works are directly related to water conservation and water harvesting. And we also launched Mission Water Conservation in the year 2016 in 2,129 water-stressed blocks to improve the groundwater situation. And most importantly, The water conservation program we are doing in a very scientific manner in adopting the ridge to valley approach, adopting the watershed approach, and adopting the water budgeting approach, and also the 4 water concept, the rainwater, to the surface water, 3 the underground water, and 4 the soil moisture. So we are concentrating on all 4 aspects of the water, these 4 waters. And we, in addition to it, we are also emphasizing on the judicious use of water, because conservation is one part and judicious use is another part. So by, converging with the agriculture and horticulture department, we are also going into the drip and sprinkler irrigation into it. So, in nutshell, Mahatma Gandhi NREGA has been a strong focus in, watershed, water conservation work. And just to tell you the kind of expenditure we are doing only on water, related works, every year almost 2 to 2.7 billion US dollar we are directly investing on water related works. And the kind of structure, like, just to give you 2-3 examples, in the year 2014-15 to 2020-21, last 6 years, we have already constructed around 2 million farm ponds, which is around worth 2.6 billion US dollar. We already have constructed 422,000 check dams, which worth 2 billion US dollar, and already constructed around 378,000 trenches worth around 1.7 billion US dollar. Now, the third part of your question, I'll take it very quickly. What are the additional steps taken to ensure the continued water conservation and management in COVID-19 pandemic? Now, this is a very tough time for all of us. It's a global problem, and through this forum, I convey the safety of all my participants and their family. Now, Mahatma Gandhi NREGA, supported a very important role, especially when the urban area, they were under lockdown. People were, just 1 minute, people were having a lot of problem for employment. Then, this program helped billions of people to have, millions of people to have employment. And the most important part, the government of India started GKRA, that is Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan. Honorable PM started this Abhiyan to, give employment to not only the returnee migrant, but also similarly affected people, and also to focus on infrastructure development. And I'm very happy that 25 works were, taken under this program. 11 out of 25 works belong to Mahatma Gandhi NREGA, and in the process, it is a 125 days Abhiyan involving 12 central ministries, and 65 days has already gone, and we have created more than 170 million, percentage, and spent around 2.5 billion US dollar. So Mahatma Gandhi NREGA not only providing rural employment, but also in the of water conservation assets. Thank you, John. I'm sorry I overstood the time.
Fantastic. Yes, thank you very much. I'm sure you have a lot of detail. So I'll move on to, Mr. Al-Hulemat. Could you please share good examples for climate resilient water resource management tools in Jordan's wastewater sector? Just that first question there, please. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. John, and regards for all participants. Actually, first of all, I would like to introduce you to my country. Jordan is a small country with an area less than 90,000 square kilometer, and the climate here in Jordan is arid to semi-arid climate, and Jordan is one of the poorest country in the world. We are #1 in the water resources, comparing with WHO guidelines, which is the availability of water per capita, 1,000 per capita per year. In Jordan, we are having water actually less than 100 cubic meter per capita per year. You imagine how's the situation in Jordan, and how are we managing this in Jordan. And as you know, the Ministry of Water and Irrigation is responsible actually for the management of water resources all over the country for all types of uses, including irrigation. And concerning the climate change, actually, we have a real climate change here in Jordan, and there is a change in the rainfall quantity in the last 10 years. And just for your information, 1.3% of Jordan area is actually receiving about 500 millimeter per year, and 90% of the area is receiving less than 200 millimeter per year, and the long-term average is actually 8,300 MCM per year. This makes the situation very worse in Jordan. And as you know, we are not having only we are having a sharing one river. Actually, it's Yarmouk River, and this river we are using it actually most of it for drinking purposes and for the irrigation. If you consider the quantity is available from groundwater and water and surface water in Jordan, it's 780 MCM per year. 5 of it MCM is coming from surface water, and 275 is groundwater. And we are emitting and overpumping the quantity of water just to give the water for people. We have the intermittent water supply system. The people in Jordan is receiving the water once per week, just only 24 hours. We are using tankers on our roofs. If you visit Jordan, you will see and you will notice this feature that all the people, all the buildings, they're having this water tanks, and just to store the water for each week. This is in brief the situation regarding the water resources. And we focus for also for non-conventional water resources as a reclaimed water. We consider reclaimed water as a source of water, and it's part of the water budget. And as I said previously, that in the last year actually we are having 168 MCM per year, and we are using this water actually most of it for irrigation purposes, and part of it in the southern region of the country in Aqaba we are using it for cooling for industrial purposes. The consumption of percentage of water actually 52% of the available water resources is using it for irrigation purposes, and for drinking purposes, it's around 35% of the available water resources. We are using it for drinking purposes, and the rest actually for industrial sector and other uses. This is make pressure on the Ministry of Water and Irrigation how to manage it and how to deal also with the climate change features and mitigations and adaptation to this. The government, and we actually depending on financial support from donors, thanks to all donors actually, USAID, German government, Japanese government, for actually supporting the water sector to sustain, because the sustainability of giving the services for both drinking purposes and wastewater is a priority for the Ministry of Water and Irrigation. We also actually, depending on the planning on the water strategy, the latest water strategy that we are having here in Jordan, it was issued in the year 2025, and based on that we have several 10 policies. One of these policies actually is for the reuse and the management of the wastewater treatment plants, and one of others is also for the drought, and another one is for climate change. So we, based on this actually actions and plans are there in places just to make use of the available water resources and make water available for all Jordanian, which is the population of Jordan is around 10 million inhabitants, and most 25% of this population, they are refugees. The refugees, by the way, waves of refugees coming from Syria, they put a lot of pressure on the water sector, and they increased the population of Jordan by 20 to 25% in the last 10 years. And we, according to the international law, the Ministry of Water and Irrigation is doing our best just to give them water, minimum quantity to survive, as we are suffering a lot from our water resources. We also actually, in the management, we depend on laws and bylaws and standards also to ensure that the drinking water, we are complying with the Jordanian standard as well as WHO guidelines. And also we have strong monitoring programs. It's one of the strongest monitoring programs in the region. We monitor the water resources from the source to the consumers. We are collecting samples, and this is a program is actually it depends on the frequency of sampling. It's stated in the standard. So we ensure that the drinking water supplied to the people is not only safe, it's very safe, because we are monitoring this water on a daily basis. And also special programs for the reclaimed water also implemented by the Water Authority of Jordan. And also we have two independent monitoring agencies which actually help and support the Ministry of Water and Irrigation and monitoring, which is the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Environment. So based on this, and joint work and other stakeholders working with the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, we ensure that the water, as I said, supplied to the people is safe.
Thank you.
If you
Engineer.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer. We'll stop there and I'll move to Dr. Alok Sika. Looking at groundwater, surface versus groundwater is forever a dilemma when it comes to water conservation. Given the climate change scenario that we have and the IWMI's global experience, what recommendations do you make as we move ahead? What recommendations? So you just deal with the first question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John, and thanks GIZ for giving us this opportunity to IMI. So let me just begin with by saying that it's really not a question of surface versus groundwater and either or approach when it comes to water conservation and building resilience to climate change, as the type of intervention ideally depends on the number of site-specific situations, and therefore ideally we need to have integrated and coordinated management and use of soil moisture, surface and groundwater storages, encouraging conjunctive use of these as a key towards the climate change adaptation. So that's my opening statement on that. And if I may speak so, in the context of South Asia and particularly India as well, where there is a lot of dependence on groundwater because over 60% of South Asia uses groundwater for irrigation. So managing groundwater assumes really an importance in building resilience and adaptation to climate change, and it's more so because of its buffering effect. So it's not only, again, the supply side argumentation, as the Joint Secretary also mentioned from the Rural Development Ministry of India, but equally important is the demand side management in really managing and adapting to climate change. Integrated watershed management, as has been mentioned, is one such example where conservation through surface water, rainwater, groundwater, soil moisture is done in integration with the farming systems, which has really helped in enhanced adaptation. In West Africa, IMI has, for example, combined the bungaroos, that is an innovative way of groundwater recharge at a local scale, which is originally an innovative thing which has gone up from India and Gujarat, and IMI has integrated with solar-based irrigation to increase water availability in the dry season to cope up with the climate change. It's also important to mention that with increasing natural variability in rainfall and runoff and growing water storage gaps, it is critical that more investment is made in water storages at multiple scales as key enabler for water resilience. So what really we need is to look into and analyze different storage types, be it underground, be it soil moisture, be it natural surface infrastructures like wetlands, etc., and built-in infrastructures like dams, water harvesting systems across scales for providing integrated services to climate adaptation. Now, in this regard, let me also mention to conclude that what Rajiv has mentioned today and made a presentation about the GIZ IME joint report is basically trying to address that how best we can bring in a convergence for better co-financing and supplementing the resources to become a critical mass for effective use of isolated and disparate spending, and in order to enable us to have a more climate resilient water management. So this is what I have it for the first question. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Sorry. How can the sure? Sincere apologies. How can the moderator have the mic? Team, Dr. Lichtenteller, please speak to the first question. So, Doctor, I would like you to speak to the first question. The last one, put the icing on the cake. How prominent is climate resilient water resource management in Jordan? And why is it efficient? Please give us the icing on the cake.
Thank you, John. Historically, we have to understand that resilience is nothing new to Jordan. Being resilient in water management. 2,500 years ago, the Jordanians, called then the Nabateans, they were world champions in resilient water management with rainwater harvesting systems, with distributing scarce water resources to larger population along desert highlands. What also has now, I need to emphasize that within the last 60 years, when it comes to water resource assessments, Jordan has had the benefit of working with the German Federal Institute for Geosciences. So for 60 years, a lot of these assessments, whether groundwater, surface water, have become available and are ongoing. And what is more important when we look at resilience and climate change in particular, in the last 5 years, there was an initiative that included all the Arab nations, especially also Jordan, with a couple of pilot programs called RICAR, the Regional Initiatives for Climate Change Assessment for the Arab Region, based with the UN organization ESQA in Beirut. And they have come up with a new Arab domain, a specific window for the Arab countries to look at climate data. And this is now available since 2018, including for Jordan as pilot country, what are the impacts on the hydrogeology and also on agriculture. When it comes to policy and resilience, in 2016, the country came up as part of the RICAR initiatives and with support from GIZ with a separate policy called Climate Change Policy for the Resilient Water Sector. And this policy is part of the National Water Strategy that runs to 2025. So a lot of work has gone on here in Jordan, and we worked with the key actors and assistant secretary generals. We had workshops on mainstreaming, to look at mainstreaming and look at climate proofing. And currently what GIZ is also in the process of doing now, of supporting the Ministry of Water and the Water Authority of Jordan to come up with a new master plan, a water master plan that looks at all this new information, climate change information available through this RICAR initiative I mentioned. So when it comes to resilience now, I want to give one example, and that relates to the reuse of treated wastewater that we have already mentioned because of the presentation of TSM. There is, as part of the laws and regulations, there's specific water substitution policy here in Jordan that looks at substituting fresh water for treated wastewater. And currently, to remind our listeners again, 20% of all irrigated water in Jordan comes from treated wastewater. And to understand how well that works, as a practical example. I want to just give one picture here. Those who know Jordan knows that most of the villages and towns that produce wastewater are in the highlands, maybe above 500 meters and up to levels of 1200 meters, whereas most of the irrigated agriculture is used in the Jordan Valley at an altitude of minus 200 to minus 400 meters. So the water that comes out of Amman, the capital, or these other huge cities usually is treated, and it runs and it's caught in a reservoir on a big dam. It is mixed with additional rainwater, especially in the winter. It is further treated naturally that way. It cascades down further into valleys. And this is all a process in stages that it's more naturally treated until it actually arrives in the Jordan Valley, where it then is mixed with more fresh water from Yarmouk River and also from the Jordan River. And then it is used mainly in the Jordan Valley for irrigation purposes. So this is sort of the mix of water, of reuse of treated water from the cities with fresh water. And it is a process that has been working, has producing food, including for the European markets where Jordan has licenses to sell. I go to the second question now that I was asked. How and why was energy efficiency included in the TSM, the inspection of the treatment plants? We brought it from Egypt, where GIZ had piloted it, and in Egypt, energy efficiency was not part of the TSM inspection. But why was it included in Jordan? Because it was a key demand from the country of Jordan, from the Ministry of Water and the Water Authority of Jordan. And the situation where we work in the northern part of Jordan, just imagine in the last couple of years we have 11 wastewater treatment plants in the north that serve perhaps a population of up to 1 million people. And they have accumulated, because of energy problems, they have accumulated millions of US dollars in the last couple of years in debt. So they don't know how to cover this and how to pay this. So that's naturally how energy efficiency was very high on the agenda to include. How did we include it? We didn't bring it from Egypt. We had to think of how to have an easy entry. And we only have 2 questions defined in our inspection process that relate to it. And one is just very simple: is electricity consumption recorded? And the second one, I quote, do water treatment plants, or does your water treatment plant implement measures to reduce energy consumption and to increase the efficiency? So what are we looking for? Very simple things. We go to the plants and we say, do you actually know, do you have a bill, a monthly bill? Do you know how much you have to pay and how much electricity you have been consuming? And then we probe further and we say, would you know per unit of your treatment plant how much each unit perhaps takes up on your whole bill? And then to do comparison between bills from a couple of months before and a couple of months later. And then the final question is, we also say to the managers and of the treatment plants, have you thought about an action plan? Do you know, can you think of steps to introduce as an action plan to reduce the electricity? Our experience has been very positive. They have been very enthusiastic to pick up the topic on energy efficiency. And of course, you know, with so much money going for energy and electricity in this country, and Jordan doesn't have oil or other resources. It has to buy it on the international market. This is a very important topic for the country, because whatever money Jordan can spend on not paying for electricity, it has actually available for food security. So the link between energy and food security is very high, because that foreign currency can then be going to buy the food on the global market. And here I stop.
No, please conclude. Have you concluded?
I think I finished my 2 questions, yes.
Oh, fantastic.
John, can I go for the second question? Because you didn't ask, so I didn't go for the second question.
Let me ask Mika, because we are 10 minutes over. Mika, what's your guidance on that particular one?
Hi, John. Yes, maybe Dr. Alok can just answer his second question, and we could quickly take maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience if they have any to the panel, and close, yeah?
Doctor, you have the blessings to proceed.
All right. So thank you. Thank you. This is regarding the South-South cooperation for water and climate agenda. So let me say that, yes, a stronger platform of South-South cooperation, a system of exchanging knowledge and resources between developing countries, definitely provides us with a significant opportunity in prioritizing and promoting knowledge-based water and climate agenda to build more resilient and climate resilient future. Now, what we have learned so far during this pandemic, that the world virtually seems even smaller with the new digital era. And this also has been amply demonstrated with a number of webinars and the virtual events, even including this one, happening across the globe, exchanging useful knowledge and the experiences during the pandemic. IMI, like many others, has also been conducting and bringing together through the South-South partners through the webinars and the events to exchange and strengthen the learnings in water and climate agenda. Of course, when we talk about this, we have been doing that with our officials and implementers, even in India, using our SDC solar irrigation project with Nepal, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. We have been also doing with the South Africa, particularly on the solar front, on irrigation benchmarking with the Uzbekistan and other neighboring countries, Bangarus, as I said already. So there are a number of cases. But let me also say that it is really not the context is also very important, because everything does not, what works in India may not work in South Africa and elsewhere. So we have to see the contextualization of what is that we are talking about. So to sum up, let me also, based on our own experiences, try and say these are the following points for promoting cross-country learnings. One is sharing and transferring innovations and best practices in water and land management solutions across developing countries. Organizing knowledge exchange workshops and capacity building of scientists, extension officials, lead farmers. Organizing knowledge exchange visits. Co-developing demand-driven water and climate governance projects. Hosting of research across regions and centers. And very importantly, cross-country policy dialogues to share a matrix of water policies, institutions, and governance for policy influencing, advocacy, and scaling up and scaling out. And finally, to build the partnerships. Now, to conclude, let me also say that as IMI, we have been also engaged with the World Bank and the CCAFs in a South-South knowledge workshop on climate smart agriculture in Nairobi last year, where we also pretty much contributed in water and climate agenda. And this year, in fact, the Government of India, through ICAR and CGIAR South-South partnership, was supposed to be organized for African nations, but that could not happen in the month of March. And hopefully, when that happens, we'll be able to share it in a much more better way. Thank you very much.
Very much, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much. Those are the resourceful presentations from our panel on climate resilient water resource management, India, Jordan experiences. Please, would allow 2 questions. Feel free to punch in the questions in the chat, meeting chat, and then we'll respond to that before we go to our concluding remarks. Any questions, please, or points of clarification?
John, there's already 1 question to Mr. Rohit Kumar in the chat. I think Vaibhav can maybe copy paste it for you.
Okay. Okay, there's one question in the chat. I'm trying to see the publications. By the way, the publications have been, the link has been shared. So the publications, it would be good if we share the links to the publication. That's already done. So that was Mika. Can you please share the links to the report?
John, it's in the chat box.
It's in the chat box.
Yeah, how government plan to reach scattered habitation of desert communities under household tap connection under MG-NREGA? This is the question.
Please go ahead and yeah. How government plans to share scattered? Please go ahead and respond. Who's taking this particular one?
John, this is directed to Rohit Kumar, sir.
Yeah?
This is directed to Mr. Rohit Kumar.
Yes. Please. Rohit Kumar, that's yours. Mr. Rohit Kumar, are you with us?
Yes, John, yes. Can I respond,
Yes.
John? Sorry.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Deepak, as I had mentioned in my presentation, that taking up tap connection to every household is the mandate of Jal Jeevan Mission, which is run by Ministry of Water Resources. So they are having a detailed plan. The DPR is already under process, and in some of the states, execution has also already started. Now, as far as Mahatma Gandhi NREGA is concerned, in this Jal Jeevan Mission, we are there to support them for the water resource sustainability. So for creation of sources for such water, we are basically providing water conservation structure to them. And especially in the desert area, we are, constructing large scale underground tank to, tap the rainwater, because that is the only source in the desert area. So we are tapping the rainwater in the form of an underground huge tanks. So that is the support we are giving to them, and wherever other, soil and water conservation structure based on, the watershed management approach or for water conservation approach, we are providing to strengthen the water source sustainability. However, the second part, to enabling them with tap water, they have already they have been doing the survey, and they will do the second part of the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And there is also right. Thanks. Thank you very much. That said, Mika, are we going to our Mohammed El Kawad and Dirk Winkler for the wrapping up remarks?
Yep.
We're starting with Mr. Mohammed El Kawad. Would you give us some closing remarks, please, briefly, and then we'll move on to Dirk Winkler.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you very much, colleagues, of course, in India who work with us together on the project, but also the colleagues in Jordan and the who we of course all know as well, and also the colleagues listening. Thanks a lot. Very interesting to follow the discussion, and it's a pleasure also to in times when you talk about climate change, and climate change does dominate a lot of the issue, to at the end of the day come down and talk about one element of it, and this being water. Here in India, and with the German Development Corporation, with our Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, we're very happy that they commissioned us to continue to start working on water in a very explicit way. We're very happy for that the two governments have decided to do that, and that we as GIZ, together with the Ministry of Rural Development and the Ministry of Water, Jal Shakti, so to say, are able to execute this project in this big country, and with these resources that this country also has, and where we can contribute and are very happy to contribute. I think the different discussions we've had now, coming more from the Jordanian side, I think this happens in both countries at the same time. We have quality exercise, management exercise, I'm sure also happening in India, and we have a planning approach happening in Jordan for sure. What I find very interesting on what we're doing now in India is that we're combining two things as German Development Corporation, sort of with decision together with the partners. We're doing the planning part of things, but we're also working on how to mobilize the financing. And that often should really go hand in hand. And so it is really my pleasure, and maybe we should move to the slide number 29, if I understand well. Come back to this slide which Rajiv Ahal and his team already mentioned before, and I'm very happy that together, of course, with the our Indian colleagues and the Indian authorities, Ministry of Rural Development and Ministry of Water, that I'm allowed to present 2 studies, 2 documents, 2 reports, and launch these publications. The first one being the Composite Water Resource Management Planning Framework for Localized Water Security and Climate Adaptation in Rural India. It's a handbook. It's a handbook of practitioners. It's a handbook where it has been developed with people on the district level, people from the ministries, and it's a really joy to present this first publication. The second one is the financing side of things, which I mentioned. Financing being public finance, of course, but also private and international, and the South-South cooperation elements, which were mentioned here by different speakers, also by Mr. Sika, I find very interesting, and this is part of it, our meeting and exchange. So pleasure for me to present the Convergence co-financing opportunities for water resilient, climate resilient water management publication. We're very thankful for this collaboration. We're thankful for the collaboration in India. We're thankful for being able to share this with you. And with that, I've done my little job here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sure people are clapping there. You may not see them, but they are clapping, and I'm clapping with them. Yes, please. Thank you very much. Here in Africa, I would say, woo! Well done. Next, Dirk.
From Jordan. Yeah, as the new sessions have already started, I will be very brief. I really appreciate having the opportunity to jointly present and discuss the important topic of climate resilient water resource management. Getting 2 perspectives from India and Jordan to the similar challenge was eye-opening to me. For me, it's worth to mention again and again that water and wastewater sector are huge energy consumers. Talking about the Jordanian approach, I'm fully aware that the presented TSM quality management system is not the silver bullet. However, as proven, TSM is contributing to minimize the emissions of greenhouse gases through reduced energy consumption of wastewater treatment plant. All of this through a cost-efficient and sustainable tool with acceptable workload. Thank you very much. Looking forward to more sessions in this conference, and bye-bye from Jordan.
Thank you very much, and bye-bye also to you. Woo, woo, woo. We are done. Thank you very much for joining the session, and thank you very much for the active participation. I'm truly very grateful. I feel like I've survived amidst experts who've taught us a lot. Thank you very much. We're truly grateful. Mika, anything else?
Thanks, John. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.